All right, so I'm gonna demonstrate more or less some of the I don't know whether you want to call it complexities or inconsistencies of using explosives in SCUM at the moment. I've literally seen physical damage, placement, all these kinds of changes between these last few patches. I'm not sure if they're intentional or not, but more or less at this point, it seems like you have to go through this test sequence every time that there's a new patch to see what's changed damage wise, what's changed placement wise, what explosives can combine for what can trigger what. So again, not sure if it's intentional, but if it is, it makes sense. They're trying to fine tune it. If it's unintentional, I think it'd be really helpful to the devs to be more aware of how their changes are impacting all these rating materials. I know it's an EA game, but for some of the try-hard guys that are rating, they're gonna want to know exactly what they need to use for specific style walls and size walls and all that stuff. So I could see it being infuriating, wasting a C4 and then having someone sit at their flag and repair, the base elements with one toolbox use. That could really suck for someone. So anyways, let me start off with by saying, the damage for each one of these parts. I think it varies based on um, wall level, and I think if you get closer to center mass of the wall, it seems to deal a couple points more in damage. So the numbers I'm gonna pretty much roll off my tongue here are, let's call them ballpark numbers that are fairly consistent. Um, so the C4 damage for each unit now is 1,125. TNT damage as of today is 679. That's changed quite a bit. Grenade damage is 225. Another piece that's changed quite a bit. Pipe bomb damage is 77. And the RPG, I'm just gonna call it the M ammo, just because that's the armor piercing version. That's the one I'm gonna be using today. That deals 293. I don't think I'm going to really dive into the RPG M version. It doesn't seem to be as viable or as necessary on this patch. I think if we roll the clock back about a month ago, it would have been super useful to detonate a variety of explosives on a wall that otherwise could not detonate at the same time without the RPG. So I think I'm probably going to leave it off my list of things here. So yeah, to get going, I think the primary focus here is going to be more or less showing everybody that um, you know explosives need to be used a specific way to get optimal amount of damage. And again, not sure if it's intended. If it is, great. If it's not, going to be really pain in the butt for people. So I'll start with the C4 and TNT combination. You'll have to take my word for it after this first setup, but more or less, if you try to use the C4 to detonate the TNT, it will not detonate the TNT damage. So it pretty much has to be TNT getting ignited to trigger both of their damage. Previous patches, you had to actually mount the C4 on top of the TNT. Now it seems like you can have, they're a little more easygoing with the spacing, so it doesn't have to be identical. I'm just going to go ahead and place it a little bit lower just for the sake of making a convincing argument that the placement can be a little bit more generous. Now, I've gone even farther away from each other, and it seems to work. I think once you get too far, the damage it still triggers the C4, but it's 50, 100 damage less, so it's quite significant if you ask me. So we're gonna go ahead and ignite this. 583. You can do the math yourself, but ballpark number that it comes out to is about 1860 some damage. What I've noticed with this is if you were to place both of these separately, you'd get less damage than detonating them together, and it's pretty consistent number. It's 62 bonus damage every time you pair these up. So I know for some people it doesn't make a big difference, but if you're trying to be extremely efficient with your explosives, it makes a huge difference. So I'll go ahead and just show you one time we're trying to detonate the C4 and the TNT by using the C4 as the um, detonator. And then after that, like I said, we just have to take my word for it. And there's your damage difference. You can do the math, but essentially what you come out to is 1,120 your C4 damage. So not sure it makes sense to me. I'm not, I'm a video gamer, so if that makes sense IRL, great. If it doesn't, then I guess good question to the devs is why is that the case? So so yeah, there's your C4 and TNT. We can pretty much go down the whole list. C4 grenade. You pretty much have to use the grenade to detonate the C4, just like you did with the TNT. It's a 1412 damage. Your C4 pipe bomb 1264. C4 C4, 2300 and change. And in every one of these cases, you have to use the component that isn't the C4 to detonate the C4. The only time that doesn't isn't consistent is when it's C4 plus C4. One of the big changes that I noticed from the past is your C4 used to have to be placed pretty much something like this for it to detonate both of them. You no longer have to do that. You can actually go side by side now. So again, not sure if that was intentional, but it is what it is. There you go. So it's fair to say that if you're not on a server where it's only weekend rating, a 2C4, most of the time will be, more than adequate to take down a level 5, 5 meter wall, right? Just based off of the degradation of the base element. But if you're rating on a server with a nice rating system, or a better than vanilla rating system, that's when you have to start thinking about, you know, how can I do that without someone sitting right next to their flag the whole time and just spamming one toolbox use for, for 2,000 over 2,000 damage to a wall, which is ridiculous. If you place a pipe bomb, and honestly, if you did the math, 1125, 1125, 77, that should not destroy this 2450 wall. Even if you had the 62 hit points of damage, it wouldn't. But what I found out with this is it seems like every time that you have a combination of two explosives, you get the 62 bonus damage. And in this case, it also seems like the pipe bomb is also triggering an additional 62 damage for the second C4. So again, not sure if that's intentional. But if we go ahead and ignite this, that should take down the wall. And this is probably the most efficient way to take down a level 5 5-meter wall. So yeah, that should have been 123 hit points short of taking down the wall. But I guess your placement and the way that you use your explosives to detonate the others, I guess makes a big impact. Uh, I was gonna put a little bit more into this to show everyone what I think is the most efficient way to take down each specific wall, but I hope that this isn't intended, and if it's not intended, I think it's a waste of time. And if you want that info, I think you just have to do the homework yourself, like everybody else would. But that's pretty much it. RPG ammo, the armor piercing ammo, I think it's a waste on the mechs because of how rare it is on vanilla settings and the utility that you can have with it to detonate C4s from range or to time it with C4s or to detonate grenades, all this other stuff. I think if you're looking to be hyper efficient with your rating, I think this is a much better rating tool than it is to get key cards. That's just my opinion in the current, in the current state of the game. I think this RPG here is definitely a raiding tool, not a mech destroying tool as far as meta goes. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this is helpful.